Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 566, recorded live on Sunday, July 21st. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have returning to the show, Nimvind.
Merry Nimbus.
Welcome back, sir. This week's screenshot, sisters Lilia and Mylia take in the wonders of Sharn in the 424th screenshot of the week. Thanks for sending in the screenshot, Mylia. Very colorful. Yeah, it's a beautiful shot. I'm trying to figure out what the thing at the top is.
I like how they look almost identical.
Yeah, no, it's a good shot. It's a great shot. It's a fun screenshot. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DO forums, iTunes, or from our website, DDOCast.com. DDOCast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be next weekend, either early Saturday or early Sunday, one of the two. And you can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or our website, DDOCast.com, with our calendar. On the podcast this week, we're going to come back to our series, Past Life Prioritization. We've been doing this kind of off and on for, I think, we kind of started at the beginning of the year. But the idea here is that we're talking about the past lives and what ones maybe you should be looking to get and kind of in what order and stuff. We've already talked about this from a big picture perspective. We talked about racial reincarnation and heroic lives. We're going to do iconic lives today. And then I think that means we'll have epic lives left to do probably in a month or two after this. Kind of wrap up that whole series. It's been really good. I think it's been really good. Kind of give some guidance on maybe where to be looking for what lives you might want to get and that kind of a thing. And how to go about doing that if you haven't already gotten the 500 past lives that you can get in the game. A little bit of a roadmap. So, we also got game news this week. So let's jump into game news because there's not a lot. We really only got one piece of game news, but it's a big one, and it's going to functionally change a segment of the population in the game, I think. And what might that be, you ask? Pale Master revamp. This is something we've been hearing about for a little while, right? Like that they want to look at Pale Masters and how do they fit in the world and the community and that kind of a thing. Well, this week we got an idea of what this looks like. So we'll dive into this and let's look at big picture first, right? So Steelstar wrote, hello everyone. In addition to the Epic Destiny Pass and new Epic Pass Lives they've already given a sneak peek of, Update 43 will also feature a revamp of the Pale Master enhancement tree. Some of the goals for this pass include, 1. Make Pale Masters less about progressing through increasingly powerful undead forms and more about picking a single or multiple forms to specialize in. Give each undead form a unique playstyle. Allow players to specialize without enforcing each form completely into a specific role. Help parties effectively interact with undead players. Provide an actual way for Pale Masters to combat undead. Help address concerns of survivability. So those are their goals, which feel pretty good, right? Although I kind of... Do people really specialize in more than one form currently? I feel like everybody runs Lich.
So. Yeah, everyone's goal is just to get to Lich. Yeah.
I've seen a few like esoteric tank builds that are using zombie form, but really specific. Like that was really kind of specifically seeing that for like Baba raid where horde wilting won't hit you kind of a thing. Also, help parties effectively interact with undead players. I guess that kind of more, I think, is kind of the survivability thing, I guess. When I read it, I kind of think of help parties of, like, have multiple undead players. Anyways.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that, but we'll get to it.
Well, I think... so he called out at the beginning here, so it didn't get lost in the shuffle. One of the big changes here. Undead players will now be healed 50% by positive energy spells. While it doesn't 100% fit the undead lore, they believe the positive benefit to survivability and party dynamics is worth the change. So let's talk about all the goals and that last point. Why don't you kick us off here? How do you feel about that?
I feel like it makes sense. Like, and this is why. Um, if you look at the flavor text of any undead form that a pillmaster gets, they actually aren't undead. It says that they shroud themselves in negative energy to assume the appearance. So yeah, like we always just considered them undead, but ever since Pillmaster was introduced and those forms were introduced, it was actually assumed that due to their connection and utilization of the negative energy weave of magic, that they take an appearance of an undead, but are actually undead. But if we just ignore that and just assume they're undead, this is needed for the new meta. The 50% deduction, I'm assuming, is going to be a lot like Warforge, how they
Right.
have heal amp, and their deduction is taken off of the end total, uh, which makes them harder to heal than even a Blade Forge, which has more of a deduction than a Warforge. It's a good trade off because you can get a lot of heal amp. Like I've gotten my heal amp in the mid 200s plenty of time.
Sure. Yeah, and it's not going to be as easy as say a Warforged to heal because Warforged have stuff in their racial trees that allow them to minimize that penalty. There's nothing in this tree that I saw. Maybe when we go through with a fine tooth comb here, I'll see something here. But like I haven't there isn't anything in here that makes it easier for you to get healed by healing energy, right? Like it's still
It's always going to be 50.
yeah, you can't like Warforged. You can get that down to like 20%, or a 20% penalty instead of a 50% penalty. Uh, so it's still gonna be safe, but I think that's okay, right? Like even if you set the lore part aside, right? Like forget that it says that whether or not it says that they're undead or because it does actually like in the language that they use here, it does say you're considered undead.
Yeah.
So even if you just set that aside for a minute and think about the ramifications and the fact that one the party can heal you, like, and I'm not just talking about harm, which yes, a couple of classes can use harm on you, but they have to be facing you, which is can be
Yeah.
really challenging. And
And it,
anyone who's tried to do this understands that harm is kind of a pain to use as a healing spell. Um,
I'm actually playing a Pillmaster Deep Gnome, and I spent about 7,000 remnants at the remnant vendor giving my teammates harm scrolls. And even then, that doesn't save you.
yeah, it's hard. Whereas a lot of characters, I mean, if you look at the kind of what you're talking about, like the meta today, a lot of parties don't necessarily have a cleric or a favorite soul to begin with. There's also just not a lot of self healing that you can do, right? To help you kind of survive in this manner. This opens up everything. I mean, it opens up potions. It opens up the stuff in Epic Destinies to self heal. It gives everybody more options, and I think just across the board, you know, does it fit with lore? No, not necessarily. Not really. It's a loose interpretation, shall we say. But from a party dynamic in this game environment, I can't see how it's bad.
Yeah.
I can't see how it's not great. Like that's the biggest problem with Pale Masters right now is you're running higher level Reapers, no one can heal you, and you can't heal yourself, so it's really hard. And
Yeah.
you don't see a lot of Pale Masters for
You
that reason.
become like more brittle than a glass cannon. Like you're just like unstable nuclear bomb at that point because they're amazing DC casters,
Yeah, they
but
are.
they're like, I can only do this once, and then they vanish.
Yeah. Um, it's easier for them to just die and get a true resurrection than it is to get healed in the middle of the
Did you
quest.
did you see what they did with Anime Ally too? Like, I love it.
Oh, we'll get there. There's some interesting possibilities there. All right, so we dive into the tree.
Uh, be my guest.
All right. So core 1 is Dark Reaping. For each core ability, you get negative spell power and 3 negative spell power and 3 negative healing amplification. We're gonna come back to this because they're gonna change this, but this is different than what it is on live, right? Because on live, isn't it? I want to say that it's like every point you spend in the tree, you get 1 negative amp or negative spell power.
Yeah, spell power. Yeah, we don't have it. Negative amp is really slow. Like in the heroic side, the most you can get is 79.
What this
Negative
is,
heal amp.
what this is in live, just for the reference, is it's every point spent in the tree, you get 0.75 universal spell power and 0.75 negative energy spell power, uh, which gives you a total of 1.5 negative energy spell power per. This is something that we'll come back to when we start talking about their responses to questions and stuff like that, because they recognize that, oh, we took a ton of spell power out of this tree. We need to fix that, and they are going to do so. Let's see. But the negative healing application, that's nice.
Really nice.
So you're getting, if you go all the way up to 6, then you would be getting plus 18 negative healing amplification. So cool. Core 2 is Pale Shroud Multi-Selector. So they basically took all of the forms and condensed them into to the second core. So all of the forms grant 100% critical hit resistance, allow you to be healed by negative energy. You take 50% healing from positive healing and double damage from light, and you are considered undead. That was all true of all of the forms already. So you get to pick one of Shroud of the Zombie, which, while in this form, is +4 Constitution, 20% damage with attacks, but you attack 20% slower than normal, and you gain +3 PRR and MRR. Shroud of the Vampire, while in this form, you get +2 Charisma, +2 Intelligence, +2 Wisdom, +3 Perform skill, and your melee and unarmed attacks have a chance to heal you for 1d3 negative energy damage per wizard level. Shroud of the Wraith, while in this form you get +2 Dexterity, +2 Intelligence, and enemy attacks have 10% miss chance to you due to Incorporeality. I think we'll be coming back to that as well. +1 Sneak Attack damage, and you gain Feather Falling. And Shroud of the Lich, while in this form you get +2 Constitution, +2 Intelligence, +10 negative Amplification, +5 negative Spell Power, and 15 MRR. So you only get to pick one. You don't get all of them. I think that's okay though, right? Like, does anyone really build something that uses more than one?
No, usually when you're leveling up, you use whatever's hot right
Yeah,
now,
whatever
which is
the
not
best you can get.
zombie.
Yeah,
Yeah, but like,
I think I've
you know,
occasionally like gone into wraith form if I know I'm going to be like kiting or something, right? Like just for the incorporality kind of a
I
thing.
yeah, like I actually last night found some uses for wraith form that I never noticed, but yeah, I pretty much don't do any form till wraith form. I actually skip vampire because right now vampire takes 300% damage from light, and there's
Oh
always a
sure, yeah,
cleric or a light bearer somewhere that's
right,
just
yeah.
gonna wreck your world. So I just wait until forms until I get to wraith. But actually, that hide and move silent, I used my invisibility slaw from Archmage Illusionist spec, and I went sneak, and I actually did an R5 quest in like 5 minutes, and I only had to fight 2 Reapers. I went straight to the end fight and killed the trash and the bot. Like it's actually a significant boost where you can literally sneak past mobs. It's actually phenomenal.
hmm Now you notice that some of these are a little less powerful than they were before. However, you can get a lot of that power back by going farther into the tree.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's a lot, and you even can later on you can even choose a second form, but that's a
correct.
waste of action points.
Maybe. Yeah. Uh, but the thing that really stands out to me here is the way that they are approaching this is because they're all very different now, right? Like,
Yeah, very specific.
well, like zombie form, for example, or what it is on live right now, it's you get +2 strength, +2 constitution, -2 intelligence, -4 charisma. Uh,
It also has a hidden ability where if you physically attack someone, you can on a Vorpal you eat their brains and they get int damage.
oh, that's fun. But in this form, so they're changing it to +4 constitution, and but the thing that I kind of look at it with this is I think there's a lot more. This makes Pale Master a much more interesting tree from the standpoint of splashing into. Like, say
Exactly.
you're a cleric, you want to, or you want to be primarily a cleric. You could take 3 levels of wizard and take Shroud of the Vampire and get +2 charisma and +2 wisdom, uh, and have some interesting things there. I don't know that we'll see a lot of this, but there's some interesting ways I think you can kind of combine these.
Yeah, if you're a huge fan of Jackie Chan's Drunken Master, you can actually go 17 monk threes for zombie, and you can look drunk while fighting and walk around like you pooped your pants.
Sure, you could go that route. That's an option. Let's see. Core 3 is a multi-selector. It's improved shrouding. You get to pick one of the following abilities that applies while in a pale shroud. You also get to breathe underwater while you're in a shroud, and you get +1 spell penetration. The shroud, the abilities you can pick from: Deathly Tough is 15 maximum hit points. Deathly Resistance gives you +15 MRR and +2 to all saves. Inflict Weariness. All your attacks inflict 2 to 9 points of negative energy damage to a living target. Scales with 100% spell power. On Vorpal, melee hits your Vorpal melee hits cause energy drain, inflicting 1 negative level on victims. The negative energy damage does apply to range, FYI. Haunting in the Dark is +2 to assassinate DCs. Ghost in the Wind is a +15% incorporeal mischance, which would stack with Wraith form. I think we'll be coming back to that one as well. Deathly Power is +10 to negative energy spell power. You can get +2 to Necromancy DCs, +2 to Enchantment DCs. Undead Chill, which is a 15% bonus to cold absorption. You no longer take extra damage from light. Undead Shock, which is 15% bonus to electrical absorption. You no longer take extra damage from light. Unhallowed Touch, you gain Ghost Touch on all attacks, +5 to hide and move silently. Core 4 and Core 5 also allow you to pick an ability from this list. They also grant +1 spell penetration, and Core 5 gives you +50 maximum spell points. Right, so let's look at those different abilities there. It's much more of a mix and match, right? Like, most of those abilities were things that you could get with the other forms. But I like that now it's kind of a mix and match thing, right? Like, you can pick a form and then kind of go in a different direction with it.
Yeah, it's like you go into a Denny's and you can, like, instead of make your own hamburger, you can make your own undead. You can literally specify exactly what you want to do, and the extra spell pen's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And the MRR is actually really nice, especially with we're gonna probably talk about it later, but Lich gets a really nice thing in its Ascended Shroud.
Yeah. And there's there's a lot of fun stuff in here because these are, like, I talked about how the Lich was not as good when you get it, but you can also get it now at level 3 instead of level 18, which
Exactly.
is one of the reasons.
You be a baby Lich.
Yeah. And you can actually get by the end of it, you actually can get more to your DCs from that as well. A little less survivability, I think, but let's see. Core 6, Undead Overlord. You gain an active SLA, Greater Death Aura. It's Death Aura that's 3 to 12 negative energy damage plus 1 additional point per cast level every 2 seconds. Just a better form of stuff of the stuff that's there. It can also be cast simultaneously with Lesser Death Aura and Death Aura. So you can have 3 auras going. Yeehaw.
Amazing.
You also get plus 4 to Intelligence and Death Block, and plus 10 to Negative Healing Amplification, and plus 2 to Spell Penetration. So let's see. That's what? Plus 5 Spell Penetration that was not in this tree before?
Yeah, and it's because you had to go into Archmage just to get 3 spell pen. So
Which you can still
this is
do, by
just
the way.
phenomenal.
Just saying, you can
Yes,
still do this.
like that gives you up to 8. So, but like that's amazing. That's
Mm-hmm.
more than even a Spellsinger Tiefling can get, or a Spellsinger Elf. If you do Elven Arcanum and Spellsinger has a really cheap spell pen, you only need 1 AP per spell pen in that tree. This is just phenomenal. And it's well deserved because wizards are supposed to be the spell pen breaking DC casters.
Yeah, this does kind of feel a little bit like a reaction to Warlocks being king of DCs right now, or a really popular choice for DCs. But all right, let's go into tier 1. Necrotic Touch is now spell points instead of hit points.
Actually, before we move on,
Oh, sure.
I feel like this is a reaction to the fact that remember when we were talking about how the new meta is built around assuming that you had the 3 spell pen past lives? I feel like this
Mm-hmm.
is their way of saying, hey, we did kind of mess up for new players. They're giving it to new players so that they can keep up with the people with the spell pen past lives now.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see. So tier 1, Necrotic Touch is now you can get it down to 2 spell points every 4 seconds. It accepts meta magics, which I don't think they did before. Scales with full spell power. For 12 seconds after casting this, your Skeletal Knight reduces its incoming damage by 50%. Hey, that's kind of fun. Let's see. Negative Energy Conduit was just relocated. Spell Crit Negative is unchanged. The Skeletal Knight, the cooldown on resummoning was changed to 20 seconds, and there's no summon cost. And Deathless Vigor was relocated, but otherwise unchanged. They just relocated it in the tree, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Let's see. Tier 2, Cloak of Night. While blocking in a Pale Shroud, you gain invisibility, displacement, and do not take extra damage from light. Passive plus 5 hide.
This was well needed because right now it gives you absorption to light, negative energy, and like you heal from negative energy. Why would you want to absorb 20% negative energy?
Yeah. The blocking is a little interesting thing. This is this feels like an interesting thing. Like if you wanted to build an undead tank, right? Like you spend a lot of time blocking, you gain invisibility and displacement when you're blocking. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be really nice for beginner players because, uh, yeah, a tank wizard probably is gonna use a shield, but a lot of people don't know is when you block with an orb, it gives you elemental absorption. So like this
Mm-hmm.
is also a good leeway to let you learn about little niche mechanics like orb blocking.
Yeah. Now, you don't have to have a shield to block. So, let's see. Spell crit is unchanged. Efficient meta magic is unchanged. And Corpse Crafter, your Skeletal Knight gains up to a plus 6 profane bonus to strength, dexterity, and constitution. On rank 3, you gain plus 1 strength, dexterity, and constitution. That's kind of nice.
Really nice.
Tier 3, Necrotic Bolt is also spell point related. It goes down to 5 spell points and 5 seconds, except meta magics and scales with full spell power. I was actually a little disappointed with this because, the Necrotic Touch, right? It gives your Skeletal Knight a boost. This one doesn't. Come on.
I know, but
Let's continue
I'm
that. That's kind of a cool idea, I think.
Isn't the current one though the HP cost though? Like I
Yes,
like that they're
they're
putting them in.
all HP costs.
Yeah,
These are
it's
now all
not
spell
fun.
points instead. Uh, so, uh, yeah, they're all down to spell points. They all accept meta magics now, which I do not believe they did before because they weren't like SLAs or something. I don't. Yeah,
Well, there were like it was blood magic. Like, how do you put a
yeah.
meta magic in bleeding?
No. Negative energy adept. You can get up to you get 10, 20, 30 negative healing amp or negative amplification. Spell crit 3 is unchanged. The Constitution Intelligence choice is unchanged. Elemental Furor. You, while in a shroud and your skeletal knight, gain plus 15 profane bonus to PRR. Your skeletal knight gains plus 10 to hit and damage, and you get plus 6 and gets plus 6 profane bonus to AC, and its attacks bypass up to 50% of enemy fortification.
I
That's the
love this
top
one.
level, by the way. There's 3 tiers of this.
Yeah, I like. Okay, so right now that that's basically combining the tier 3 skeletal upgrade with the tier 4 skeletal upgrade and giving you a boost, which makes it worth taking. It's beautiful. Thank you,
Yeah.
SSG. Great work.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff there, isn't there? Let's see. Tier 4, Unholy Avatar. While in an undead shroud, your negative energy attacks leave a lingering debuff on undead foes that leaves them vulnerable to negative energy if they were immune.
I love
Yay.
this one too.
Um, well, actually, and remember, I think one of the devs said something about this, and hopefully I grabbed it. If not, I'll try to remember off the top of my head. Yeah, no, it's all of the sorcerer trees have this now, right? It's all in tier 5 again, which is what we'll talk about later. But
Tiefling has it now, and all.
yeah,
There's a lot of it. Druids.
mm-hmm. Let's see, spell crit and Constitution Intelligence is unchanged. Deathly versatile. Pick a second shroud toggle. You may only have one active at a time. Oh come on, we can't have more than one active at a time. That'd be fun, right?
Yeah, I want to be a zombie lich.
I would have gone Wraith Lich, but yeah, no, it's fine. Let's see, tier 5, Necrotic Blast is 10 spell points, 6 seconds, accepts meta magics, scales with full spell power. Again, all the same things that the other ones get, but no buff. Come on, like the buff thing was cool. Animate Ally. Let's come back to that in a second. That's gonna be a little longer conversation. I think Necromantic Focus is unchanged. Dark Discorporation and Multi-Selector. You get either Dark Discorporation SLA, as per the Warlock spell, because Pale Masters, she gets to turn into bats and float away. Sure.
At least the vampire ones,
yeah, right.
It makes sense.
Reactive. You can also choose Reactive Discorporation when your hit points drop below 50%. You gain Dark Discorporation for 20 seconds. The effect still ends if you attack. It may only trigger once every 60 seconds.
Now this is interesting because at a lower tier on Eldritch Knight, you get the reactive orb, right? Like you get the
damage.
RD shield.
Yeah, I know what
So
you're talking about.
imagine just like turning into a bunch of bats under a purple fish bowl, and you're just walking around like you can't see me.
Sure. Ascendant Shroud. You gain bonuses from your based on your current form. While in zombie form, you get plus 20 melee power, plus 10 PRR, and a plus 20% racial bonus to maximum hit points. Hey, that's a lot.
A lot.
That the only other place you can get that, I think, is
Master Maker Renegade or whatever.
Yeah. So undead tanks. Anyone? We're gonna see. We're gonna see some. Like,
do you think it's funny that you only get 20% racial HP boost if you're a robot or a undead?
It kind of makes sense, actually. Vampire. While in vampire form, you get plus 1 enchantment DC. Your melee attacks have a chance to dominate your adversaries, which is a paralyzing on hit. This DC is 20 plus your intelligence modifier plus enchantment spell bonuses. If they save, they get a minus 10 movement and attack speed. Kind of feels a lot like the Arcane Archer paralyzing arrows, but this is with melee. Wraith form. While in Wraith form, you get more incorporeality, bringing your total up to 20% or 35 if you have Ghost in the Wind. I think we'll revisit that again. You get plus 2 sneak attack dice, plus 3 dodge and dodge cap, and plus 10 to hide and move silent. And Lich. Well, in Lich form, you get plus 15 to MRR cap, plus 5 negative spell power, and plus 10 cold and electric resistance. So yeah, there's some fun stuff there. Lich is at the end. Lich is not getting its Constitution bonus, which it currently does.
Nah.
Um,
But with the esoteric set, which increases your MRR cap, Lich that increases. I think they're slow. Like I don't think you can get 100 MRR on a rogue wizard, but it's getting close. Like there's a Nice Tools Mystic, whatever
you
defense
should be able.
filigree set.
You can get there because that's plus 40 to MRR cap, and this is plus 15, so that would put you over
Yeah,
100.
yeah.
And I
They're
think there are other places. I would like to see them either add a lot more ways to increase MRR cap or increase the MRR cap just in general.
yeah. Me too.
I think it's. I understand why they have an MRR cap, but I think it's in today's environment it's a little too low based on the damage that things can do, even on normal. Exhibit A, too hot to handle. Anyways, yeah, there's some fun stuff in here. Like, I don't think vampire is going to be a super popular choice.
Unless you're really into Twilight.
If you're going to be picking vampire because you're into something, I don't think it's going to be Twilight. I think you'd probably pick something else. Anyways, but I can see zombie form being a tanky type of thing. Wraith if you're kind of being more of a roguey, or falconry kind of a thing. And Lich I think will still be the most popular one. It's kind of a guess. But I think it's
Vampire, like just the base vampire has some synergy with Bard, which is, oh, I
sure.
guess,
Yeah.
nice. It gives you a little perform, but
Be an undead bard. Yeah.
yeah, just like I'm a vampire like poet.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think this tree is much more useful. It's much more splashable too. So it'll be interesting to see what people come up with. Let's go back to Animate Ally. It has an 18-second cooldown. The target no longer takes damage over time, and the zombie form is removed on rest or death. No longer takes damage over time.
Huge
Interesting.
improvement.
Yeah, right?
So
Um,
you could pretty much just have your party die, and then you have an army of zombie undead. But like, uh, it kind of removes the half of the prank, because before in High Lords of Malkir we had a guildie that would use that to prank people, right? Like we would raise it
sure.
and then they would either die randomly because they're not paying attention. And now the prank is that they only taken 50% of the heal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, this raises some interesting questions though. Like, if you're a Warforged and you come back as a zombie, do you take 50% off of 50%? Like, is the penalty applied twice? Uh,
And do you get the zombie shroud? It says you get
the
the
zombie
zombie
form
shroud, right?
is removed.
But like, doesn't the zombie form now give you like 4 con or something? Like you're gonna be beefy when you come back up.
So Animate Ally, the current text says, your ally is considered an undead zombie, gaining the benefits and drawbacks of the Shroud of the Zombie. uh, so I mean, you're basically putting a Shroud of the Zombie on them. Which I mean, this has some interesting applications for a tank, right? Like, if you die, come back as an animated ally, and you get +4 Constitution. If you don't need to attack, then cool.
Yeah.
Um, even if you do, you're attacking slower, but you're doing more damage. Kind of a trade-off there. Uh, I think that you end up doing less damage by attacking less quickly. That's just kind of how that works.
But if you're doing more damage, your insight is gonna multiply. Like I feel like this is a boon. Like it now is a
Well,
boon.
if you're a tank, maybe. Um,
Yeah.
it it is definitely it's a trade-off. Because if you're attacking faster, you're getting all of those extra weapon effects more often. Uh, as opposed to getting the extra base damage. But if you're not getting through DR or something, or you're on Reaper mode, that those effects probably aren't doing much for you anyways. So getting more damage is a benefit. Um, but there's interesting there's a lot of interesting ramifications here, right? Like, because when we were running Baba on harder difficulties, an undead tank we found was really helpful because a lot of the stuff that's trying to do damage to you uh, is doing it through horde wilting, which you're immune to if you're undead. So there's a lot of interesting ways that you can play with animate ally now. Uh, and like I said, it doesn't make you immune to healing anymore, so that's good.
Exactly. Like,
But there,
I don't know. It seems like it's gonna be something worth taking now if you have the 2 AP for it.
sure. Uh, let's see. There's also a new spell, a level 9 sorcerer and wizard spell, Rend the Soul. It twists unholy energies around a single foe, causing it to significant negative damage over time. It deals 4 to 10 damage every 2 seconds for 10 seconds for every cash level up to 20. So basically, it deals 1d6 plus 4 negative damage per cash level, maximum 20d6 plus 80 every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. Interesting, it doesn't stack. Most of our dot spells, you can stack them up. This one does not, which is kind of interesting, but it does a fair amount of damage. So we have a level 9 negative energy spell. Yay.
I have mixed feelings about it. Like, I understand if there's a legal reason or a works, like, we can only, we're so busy we could, but like, it would have been nice if we had a second like spell for these new Pillmasters to utilize something that's equivalent to like Acid Well or something. Uh, like the dot is nice. I appreciate it. Thank you. Like, I mean it, but like, I hope this is not the end. You know what I mean? Like, I would like to see at least one more because there is kind of like a shortness of negative energy damage dealing. Like, we got necrotic ray, we got like a touch spell, which, like, why would you get close? And some bolts and all that, and then we got the death auras. Right, I guess greater death aura counts as a new one, but like that's a
Sure.
capstone. um, we got this dot that doesn't stack now. Like, it would nice to have like a nuke, like Acid Well or Iceberg, or anything, like,
Mm-hmm. A big damage
yeah,
instead of a damage over time. Yeah, and I think that's also kind of a significant thing too, right? Because if you're running in Reaper, because this is spreading its damage out, so you can hit it 6 times, I think, for this amount of damage. But each of those 6 times is going to be reduced damage wise, as opposed to if you have a massive damage shot. I think it comes out that uh, you might be doing more damage from one shot as opposed to damage over time. But I think they're all kind of flavorfully a little different. So, um,
yeah. Well, it's just like right now with like I'm playing a Deep Gnome Pillmaster right now because I'm crazy, and I just found out that Pillmaster's getting revamped instead of saving this life until afterwards. But right now, my combination for DPS is I throw Acid Bolt and then Black Dragon Bolt because I'm a Deep Gnome. So like, I get that acid damage spell power from
hmm
my toggle. Uh, and that's my DPS. Like, it would be nice to have a necrotic version of that where I can be like, necrotic bomb, and then like throw this dot, and then like run away from the mob until my timers are off, and then necrotic bomb.
Sure. They responded with a couple of changes. They're going to drop the incorporeal percent of Wraith form for a total of, if you have Ghost in the Wind, down to 25% instead of 35% like it is on live. From discussions and feedback that's been given, it's very clear that the current incorporeal percent as it stands on live is high enough to outweigh almost every other form's benefits, and they're going to rein that in for this update. They are raising the negative spell power available in the cores. Previously, with 40 points in Pale Master, you would end up with 30 negative and 30 universal spell power. The cores, they only covered 18 of that. The cores are being changed to provide 5 negative and 5 universal spell power each, bringing the numbers for a full tree up to the same for a 40-point investment. Yes, they're aware that the capstone is the 41st point. Although, really, if you're going to spend 40 points in a tree, are you not going to take the capstone? Like,
Exactly. Like, what's the
you're
point?
there already. Take the capstone, right?
It's just 1 AP.
Yeah. Well, you can only take. Yeah. You're going to take a capstone. Right. Anyways. Deathly Tough is being changed from 15 hit points to 25 hit points and 5 MRR. Much better. Haunting in the Dark is picking up an additional sneak attack die in addition to its Assassinate DC. Lich Form's base and Ascendant Form is going from 5 negative spell power to 10 for a total of plus 20 spell power in Ascendant Lich. And Zombie Form is getting plus 2 strength in addition to its current benefits. Cool. There are no major changes to the skeleton pet this update outside of what they've already talked about in the thread. They'd love to make some significant changes to them, but we've heard this before. Even making minor changes to the pets would take longer than the entire pass took. It's on the hopefully someday schedule. Pets are apparently a pain in the butt.
Well, yeah, they've been mentioning having a pet pass, like just a whole update dedicated to pets because of how brutal they are.
Yep. They'd like to do a pass on Archmage down the line. It probably won't happen this year. Archmage is 2 to 3 times the size of every other tree, and will take that much time longer to do anything meaningful. So it's a matter of finding the right time. To be honest, Archmage is expensive but relatively effective for a number of possible builds. On the other hand, there are some spell school choices and combos that are rarely, if ever, used. They'll probably collect some feedback and data about that as they get closer to actually making a change there. Let's see. There was a question about, hey, what about the Paladin Pass? And said, yeah, it's still coming. Or the Knight of the Chalice, it's still coming. I think they prioritize this one because it's in a worse shape, to be honest.
Yeah.
Let's see, and then we all. Do you have something you want to say?
Yeah. The one thing. Okay, so the Pellmaster is part of the part 2 of the Arcade Pass. They did mention Savant and Pellmaster was going to be worked on after the expansion. I haven't heard anything about the Savants. Where's my Sork love?
Let's see. The rest of the year schedule. This is a new topic. They did post something. Update 42 patch something is coming soonest. It just contains the new raid. Update 43 coming sometime soon after that. I think I've been saying like end of August, early September, kind of where I would guess it might be. Coming sometime soon after that. It contains a new content pack, the Epic Destiny changes, new Epic Past Lives, and the Palemaster Pass, and more. Hey, there's more. Update 44 is later this year. I would expect to see this around Halloween because they usually do not a patch. They usually do an update around the time of Night Revels because they usually kind of add a few things and make a new quest in there. That will contain the new class, possibly some other things too. We'll see. So again, that's usually that pass around the Night Rebels is usually a much smaller update. So that's why I would guess that that's probably going to be October, November range.
I have a insert because we mentioned the new class. They also mentioned Keep on the Borderland was supposed to be released today, but Cordovan and the Wednesday live stream said that there was no work done on it yet. Do you think they're going to hold off until January?
The next line is Update 45 is also coming this year, as they said in the producer's letter. It includes Keep on the Borderlands.
Oh,
so I would say that would probably be a December time frame. I'm a little surprised there wasn't a disclaimer in there. It may get pushed to like January. But I think that's kind of where I'm. If I was gonna throw darts at a calendar, I would say 42, the raid is probably coming in the next week or two. Update 43, probably August, September, kind of in that range. So somewhere around Labor Day as an average. Update 44, I would say somewhere around Halloween, and update 45 probably hitting Lemania late November and coming out mid-December. If it doesn't come out by probably December 20th. I think it will. I don't expect them to release an update between like December 20-ish and New Year's. like,
Yeah. Well, like I remember I don't know what the interview was with, but Cordovan and Severlin did an interview with a website, um,
right.
and they said that something was going to get pushed next year because of how important Night Rivals is and how much work that they had to do with. Like this was the same
Mm.
interview where they said that the variant race was supposed to be Forgotten Realms Drow, but then other SSG employees were like, why not this one and why not this one? So like there's a lot of work going. Like SSG is doing like they really care. So like they have a lot that they're going to give to us, but they really want to make sure it's 100% from the bottom of their heart, and I really appreciate that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like instead of just like, okay, Forgotten Realm job, like, but like, what if we did something else?
Sure. All right. Let's cruise into some stuff here so we can get to our main topic. Bonus days, double combinations valid through today, July 21st. Store sales, you can get a boost 25% off through July 25th on Sovereign XP elixirs, Treasure Hunter elixirs, Greater Slayer boosts, and long lasting Supreme ability potions. Summer sales continues. You can get 35% off of plus 20 Hearts of Wood, 50% off of plus 3 Tomes of Fate, 50% off of Veteran Status 2, and 75% off of Artificer through July 25th. So if you don't have Artificer, now's the time. I think that Artificer is what, like 1,000 points? So maybe we're talking about 250 points, if that.
Yeah, I also think that you can get it through Kenneth Favor, but that's actually hard to do with
You
the
can.
challenge.
Yeah, you need to you pretty much need to get both of the raids run on Elite and all three of the quests, and then if you do that, I think you need to two or 3 star everything. Um, so that's a little bit more doable. Um, the weekly coupon this week gets you Haste Potion times 10 with the coupon code Hasty through July 25th. By the way, if you do the favorite thing for Artificer, that only applies to that server. If you buy
Yeah.
Artificer, you have it everywhere. So something to consider. All right. Community news. The 342nd Chronicle. It's your last chance to, well, it's already too late. The third annual DDO fashion competition, hosted by Ellen Wee on the DDO forums, ended on Friday 19th. Hopefully, we'll see what people did for that and see who the winners are. That is always pretty impressive. Like, people get pretty darn creative with their costumes for that. The comment: if you could turn into a gelatinous cube for a day, would you, and why or why not?
Yes. Why? I'm assuming gelatinous cubes are very buoyant, and like I would try to find because my issue is I have a hard time traveling because I don't have a car. I would just find like a rushing riverbed and just like freaking jump into that and just I don't know. Like I think there's just so many things you can do as a gelatinous cube that like you can't do, molecularly speaking.
I mean, I'm thinking like this would be a really good way to clean the bathroom.
Oh yeah, I hate cleaning the bathroom. You're so like my mom would actually love me for one.
I think that's. I'm not sure how the mechanics work there, and I'm largely concerned, like, because there's this gray area of what does a cube eat and what doesn't it eat, kind of a thing. Like, is it gonna dissolve the toilet? Because that would not be better. But if you could just like go in there and not like eat the stuff that you don't want to eat and like get all the like consume all the germs and stuff, that'd be fantastic.
Now, if it's only for a day though, and like you turn back and you have like all the hair and like dirt and grime in your stomach, like that's an issue I would be
I
concerned
think
with.
they
Like, would
consume
I
stuff
have
faster than
toilet in
that,
my
but
mouth?
that's a concern.
I don't want
There's
to know what my toilet tastes like.
I don't think anyone wants to know what the toilet tastes like. Anyways, moving right along. The guild for the week. Tears Palladium is hiring. Tears Palladium is a drama free 25 plus year old Guild. They're mostly mid-30s to 60s. They're an American guild with an international Euro flavor. They have members on at all times, but left and right coasters from California to New York and the U.S. should find plenty on during peak hours. They're successfully recruiting European Union players that add a worldwide diversity and camaraderie to their established and growing guild. They're proud to play with their European brothers and sisters, as well as a few guildies that hail from places as Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. That is a very diverse group of players. It's impressive.
Oh yeah.
See, fansite news, we got a shout out for episode 565 last week. You can read Shopping at the Night Market from BioBreak. Brighter Days Ahead, the second half of summer had a show, as did Bard Life with Doug Glendower and DDOPL folks and Nubicabra. Journaling his quest to become a triple completionist. Hey, listen to our Past Life Prioritization series. That might help you.
Oh yeah.
You can also read Raids Week 130 from Mickey's Delirium. And we also got a shout out for D&D Kasplat, my D&D night group that I DM with on D&D night on DDO stream. So that was a lot of fun. We'll talk about that in a little bit. There's also a meetup in Indianapolis during Gen Con. They're hosting a community meetup Friday, August 2nd from 7 to 10 local time. Or this says 7 to 10 Eastern. I'm not sure. Is Indianapolis in Eastern time?
I believe I don't
thought it was
know.
Central, but I don't have any idea. Anyways, they're meeting from 7 to 10. I assume that's local time, whether or not that's Eastern or Central. At the Punch Bowl in Indianapolis. It will take place Friday the evening of Gen Con, but no ticket to the convention is necessary. It's a free event to attend, but attendees will be responsible for their own beverages. A light food table will be available on a first-come, first-served basis. The event is open to people under the age of 21. However, underage visitors must leave by 10 o'clock, according to the rules of the establishment. Additionally, no prohibited activities allowed, including the consumption of alcohol for those under 21. You can RSVP. They'd love to provide them with an approximate crowd size, but you don't necessarily need to attend. They will also be providing some activities as well, including bowling, ping pong, darts, bonsai, and Giant Connect 4. Not reserved for them and in the establishment is also a vintage arcade. I think they said it's like a block north by northeast of the previous location, so that's really cool that they're putting that on. That's really awesome. I wish I could be there.
I wish that I could be there, and I wish one of the events that they were holding is a free Too Hot to Handle completion.
Sure. Let's see. DDOCast news. DDOCast we should be back for the most part. We are going to be moving to Wednesdays this week. So the show will be on Wednesdays instead of Tuesdays now. See, D&D night on DDO stream, 7 p.m. Eastern every Sunday. We have a group doing D&D, playing D&D on Fantasy Grounds, which is our sponsor for the program. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of it. Like, I would be doing this even if I wasn't streaming it for a show because it's fun. We had my group that I my DM with the Damsels and Draculetta, No Bob, Rent, and Tay. We had our that was our last Sunday was our Sunday. We do the second Sunday of every month. Had a lot of fun. I took a hard swing at killing people this week. It was a story thing. It fit. I wasn't just being mean. But yeah, the end was a little shocking. I was a little surprised. But it was a lot of fun. So you can check that out as well. And those are all on YouTube. If you go to DDO's on YouTube page, there's a playlist that you can subscribe to, follow, whatever you want to do.
I would love to get into one of those pen and paper nights.
Talk to me afterwards.
Okay.
All right. There we go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about Past Life Prioritization, Iconic Lives. So we're going to jump into that. You know, if we're still going in another half an hour, we'll probably split it into two. I don't think we will, because there's just not a lot of Iconic Lives, right? So Uh, let's talk about iconic lives. First, we should talk about how they work, because they're a little different than some of the other lives that we've talked about, the racial and heroic lives. There's also there's often a lot of confusion about how iconic reincarnation works, because when it really revolves around when do I use an iconic heart of wood?
Yeah, the flavor text still says like 28, but it's when you're capped, guys.
Yeah,
When it's 30.
it's also when you are this life an iconic life. It's like when you are
Yes.
an iconic character, use it. You do not use it to become an iconic character, uh, if that makes sense. You have to use it when you are an iconic character instead of a regular true heart of wood or a heart of blood. You do not. You can't use. You can't do this as a racial reincarnation. You don't. You can't do it currently and get a racial life. Although that would not be a terrible change. Although it lore wise, I don't think they ever will. But you can get. You do get a heroic past life based on your class. So you get both when you do this. You do not get an epic past life. In a lot of ways, it's essentially instead of getting like if you're at level 30, instead of doing an epic life and then a heroic life, which would be an efficient way to do it. If you're level 30, please don't just do a heroic life,
Yeah, please.
take an epic life first, unless you've got them all right. Um, but as an iconic, you can't get an epic one. If you do take an epic one, you would have to go back up to 30 before you could true reincarnate. Um,
You know, it's an interesting thing that uh, doing an iconic reincarnation as an iconic at level 30 gives you the same amount of past life work as an epic and a heroic and racial, as in that you get a
true.
the heroic and racial and a toggle. You know,
Yeah.
like you're like, Here's a toggle, here's some passives.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations."
Can we just take a side tangent too and say what would really be nice if we could get a heart that gave you an epic life and a heroic life in one shot?
Oh yeah, that would be fantastic.
Like
But
make the
here's the
price combine the prices, right? Like make them the same. Like as if you're using a heart of wood, a true heart, and an epic heart, but like combining the two in one shot, that'd be great.
That's what I was about to say. Like all the hearts that require you to be level 30 uses commendation of valors or heart seeds, and all the hearts that require you to be 20 takes token 12 tokens
Yep.
or 20 tokens of the 12.
Um. So yeah, you can get iconic hearts of wood through combinations, valor, and heart seeds. Um. So that's when you can get a reincarnation, what hearts to use. All of the iconic feats, they have an active form and a passive form. So you get, but it's not like the heroic lives where you have to take a feat. You just get all of the benefits in one shot.
Yep.
So you get a passive bonus, which you just always have, and then you typically get an iconic past life stance. And what this is it's a stance channel. You only get to have one active at a time, but you can pick which one you have active at a time. There is no iconic completionist yet.
Because there's only 7 iconics.
Yeah, and we've talked about before, like we could use some, like what would more look like, right? Each of the iconics is a different class, although human is represented twice. Both Purple Dragon Knight and Shadowkai are actually humans.
Well, actually, in pen and paper lore, Shatterkai, it depends on what edition you're playing. Because in 5th edition, they're the opposite of Feywild Eladrin elves. So they're
Oh,
actually
interesting.
elves now.
That's interesting. Well, in our version, they're humans.
They're very much humans.
It would be fun, to have like one for each race. I think personally.
Yeah, but then they're having the variants. So like technically, every
Yeah.
race will have like 3 races.
Anyways, so let's kind of go through them. and we'll just kind of comment on them as we go through. The good news is there's no completionist, right? So some of these you probably don't even need to get. See, Blade Forged, which is a Warforged character. They come with the coolest armor. Oh, by the way, each iconic gets a special cosmetic that you can only use if you're that iconic that
Yeah.
race. You can't use it later. It has to be that race.
Hey, I've okay. So like another thing I notice, and I don't know if it might be bugged for me or it might be just how it works. If you do a Blade Forge life and get the cosmetic and delete it, and this applies for all iconics. If you delete your cosmetic, then like later on down the line, level up to 15, click your pack, the cosmetic's not going to be in that pack. So like if you really like that cosmetic, if you really like that iconic and you're planning to keep it, you should probably keep the cosmetic because you're only going to get it once per character.
Mm. Let's see. So Blade Forged. The passive bonus is plus 5% fortification. These all stack 3 times, by the way. You don't get them. You can't stack them more than 3.
That's the rule of past lives.
Yep. The stance is plus 10 repair spell power per stack of this past life. Blah. So you're looking at up to 15% fortification and plus 10 repair spell power.
And possibly a paladin past life because their first level was paladin.
Their first level is paladin. I mean, that just is gonna depend on what class you are when you get leveled up, right?
Yeah, your majority.
So I mean that doesn't change, but they do start as paladins. You can use a +1 heart of wood or a plus heart of wood to remove that class later. That is a possibility. Let's see. Let's talk about Blade Forged. Possibly the weakest past life.
I in 2 Wednesday live streams about a year and a half ago, I kept when I was doing my Warforge past live, I noticed that the strongest thing about a Blade Forge racial tree is a toggle, right? In the last 30 seconds gives you all this buffs, but Warforge gets Memories of the Last War, which gives you half that buff constantly. And
Mm.
like if they actually in the wiki, I don't know if this is 100% correct, they actually get a bigger debuff to their positive heal amp, like racially, than a regular Warforge. I don't like Blade Forge. I really don't. And I told Cordovon, please look at him again, and he's like, oh, I'll pass that through the team. Next time I told, he's like, actually, no, they're pretty good as they are. I'm like, okay, I trust you,
Well, they
but
do have the self healing thing, which is pretty nice.
but you can get that other ways.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think this is probably the weakest past life that you can get for these.
Yeah.
Plus 15% fortification usually isn't going to make or break things for you.
And there's like an epic stance that gives you fortification too in martial too. Like it's like,
Yeah.
why do you need that?
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, plus 15% fortification, sure, it'll help sometimes. I just don't think you're going to notice it that much, to be honest.
You're gonna be a god in Korthos, okay? Like,
if things are gonna bypass some fortification, the 15% probably isn't gonna make or break it for you. Yeah, not to say that it won't help, but I think it's the weakest of the bunch. Let's see, Sun Elf, which is the Morning Lord. This is a cleric past life, or a cleric class. Starts out that way. By the way, just a really quick aside, the mechanics of these is when you become an iconic, you choose iconic at character creation. It will put you in a different spot for creating your character. You can either level it up in that spot, but if you want it to have different class levels, you have to say no and go out into the world. So you can do it. You can level up without having to take all of those class levels. Anyways, the Sun Elf, the Morning Lord, is
before we move on,
sure.
also, if you're not aware, iconics start at with enough XP to take 15. You don't have to take 15.
Right.
You can walk out that door and do level 1 quests if you're crazy enough. But you get enough XP to go to 15. You can hold 14 and like cap out.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get the XP for 50.
You won't gain any more XP, I think, until you take level 14. But let's see. The Sun Elf Morning Lord. The passive bonus is +3 positive spell power per stack, and the stance is +10 light and alignment spell power per stack of this past life. Useful for some builds. Probably not worth the time for a lot of builds. But
Can I say that doing Warlord Cleric is basically prepping you to be a tentacle enlightened spirit freaking warlock? Because Cleric gives you
it's
conjuration,
true.
and then you get 30 more radiant spell power. Like, okay, like I'm done. Bring on the warlock.
It's true. That's one of the builds that you're probably going to get the best bang for your buck out of it. So, Purple Dragon Knight. This one is different. First, it's a fighter class. Is its default human.
One of the ugliest races in the game.
Well, they are bigger though. That's kind of fun.
Yeah,
The passive bonus is a +3 PRR per stack. That's pretty good.
really good.
Instead of a stance, you get a group action boost. You and your all allies within your aura gain 10, 20, or 10, 15, or 20% bonus to movement speed, and a +1, 2, or 3 to saving throws for 20 seconds. The ability can also be used while feared and dispel fear effects. You can get 3 per rest.
Now, there's two drawbacks to this. One, it is an action boost, so it does put some of your action boost on timer, and
Sure.
it puts your act like you can have it in your bar, and another like if you want Shatter Kai is a good stance,
Mm-hmm.
you can have that active, and then you hit your PDK boost. It will gray it out and put it on timer, but like you don't, it won't untoggle it. So like it will automatically reapply once the cooldown's off, but it puts your iconic stance on timer.
And you don't gain benefits from the past life stances while you're
Yeah.
on that timer as well. So there's a little bit of a drawback there. Right. Shader Kai. Well, I was PDK though. Like that action boost is pretty useful. Like the movement speed boost is pretty nice.
Yeah, it's really nice, and it's a group one. So like, if
Yeah.
you really help the party, and they get saves. Like, if we're all going to go through a trap without a trapper, this is the path. This is a necessary past life for me.
Sure. And also, I don't want to gloss over the fact that it dispels fear effects, and you can use it while feared. That's really nice.
That's really great.
Yeah. All right. Shader Kai. This is also human, and it's a rogue life. The passive bonus is +1 dodge. Nice. And the past life stance is when you are below 50% hit points and get hit by an attack, you gain 25% incorporeality for 6, 12, or 18 seconds.
It's a lifesaver.
It can occur once every 2 minutes. No, this is actually one of my favorite ones, right? So
Yeah, this is my go-to.
Yeah, it's
But
great. Yeah. Go ahead.
Shatter Kai's racial tree, specifically the chain line, could use an update. I feel like it's something everyone wants to use right off the bat. Like, oh, I'm gonna
Mhm.
whip a chain around. Like, but as soon as you use it, you want to just change your action points in that tree. Like, immediately. Like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
it's not as good as you think it's gonna be.
it's not as good as the enemies at
Right?
all.
Yeah. No. Yeah, it really is. Um, but yeah, this is again one of the best ones you can get. If you're only gonna get two, I would tell you to do Shader Kai and PDK. Those would be the
Yes,
two that I would say to go.
unless you're an illusionist.
Well, let's talk about Deep Gnome, which is Gnome and Wizard. +1 illusion. The stance is +1 to illusion DCs, and +5 acid spell power per stack of the life, and the passive is +3 MRR.
Really good.
Yeah. Tell us about this. Why do you like it?
Well, like, well, I'm playing I'm on my third Deep Gnome life, and right now, at level 17, my DCs are for my illusion spells are 70, uh, and that's only with just a +2. My acid spell power is in 400, and I only have an augment for my spell. Which is a good. This is a really good way to help out your DPS pool, because sometimes you just have to spec for so many spell powers. So with this toggle, it's really amazing for illusionist spec, anything warlocks, with great old one, really good because they literally get PDK from their pack and acid spell damage from their pact. And then wizard, deep gnome, PDK, PKers, illusionists, they get 3 PKs. They get PK as a slaw under racial tree. Yeah, it's the longest cooldown comparative to the Archmage PK, but this gives when it comes to necroing, this makes them the Tesla, if you will, of insta kills because they have selection. Granted, compared to a Death Domain cleric who gets more DCs, they're kind of like the sports car of um, insta kills. So Deep Gnome is really nice for specific builds. Shatterkai, good for everything, and PDK should always be on your bar as a secondary backup. But Deep Gnome is a really good investment, especially if you like acid damage and specifically if you have the ability to use Phantasmal Killer. Phantasmal Killer is, in fact, a killer. Granted, it has 2 saves, but that plus 3 goes towards both the saves. So the higher that you can get that up, the more often that someone's going to fail one of those 2 saves.
I had a pen and paper group once that they were facing a dragon that was going to kill people, and they led with a phantasmal killer, and the dragon rolled 2 1s.
Oh, yeah.
It happens.
Another pen and paper favorite I wish they would bring in here is Phantasmal Forest.
No, sure. I have to say though, I feel like deep gnomes are like the ugliest iconic.
Yeah, they kind of look like sick kids. Like you ever like go watch those shows where they go into like the terminally ill kid ward in the hospital? They look like they're one of those kids. Like, no offense, you're all beautiful kids, but you look like deep.
Oh man, that's terrible. All right, let's move on to Scourge. Yeah, ASMR Scourge.
Yeah,
This stance is its passive bonus is +1 Fortitude saves, up to 3, and the iconic Past Life stance is +1 Double Strike and +2 Offhand Double Strike, which is pretty nice. I think more so
it's
for
very
the
niche.
I think it's more so for the offhand double strike, right?
Yeah,
That's a
pretty
lot harder to
much.
get. I actually have to be careful. Like my rogue can like burst up to like 130% double strike right now under certain circumstances, which is almost less helpful because you don't get, unlike double shot, over 100% doesn't give you more hits. So, uh, but hey, if you're doing 2-weapon fighting, then this is nice.
It's one of the few sources of offhand. Like, there's like a
Sure.
mace set bonus, but you know, yeah, if you're gonna be a monk or anything and not use maces, this is the only source that you're gonna get offhand double strike, I think.
Mm-hmm. Um, No, there's the perfect 2-weapon fighting gives offhand double strike as well. So there's at least a couple other places, but um, this is a pretty ASMR is pretty popular. This is Ranger, by the way, ASMR and Ranger.
Yeah.
So which is kind of an interesting flavor, but fun.
Their racial tree and the past life clearly wants you to go the what was that dervish, that tree where 2-weapon
Rolling
fighting
Dervish,
throws up. Yeah,
sure.
and it's actually pretty solid. And of course, Asimar is what we call an elite race, or like a top tier
Sure.
race, because
Yeah.
every power gamer is gonna want some form of healing hands.
Yeah, it's ASMR is one of the better races for sure. All right. Tiefling Scoundrel, the newest one. This is Tiefling and Bard, which works together really well, actually. The passive bonus is +1 reflex save per stack of the past life. The iconic stance is 10%, 20, or 30% enhancement bonus to movement speed. It does not stack with striding speed items or haste, which
which isn't.
kind of makes it less useful, right?
I mean, if you are not in Sorlona and catching High Lords of Malkir's Thursday Abbot Fest, if you don't have access to Quiver Alacrity, mind you, also Tiefling Scoundrel has a quiver that like that you can hold over and use on any race that allows you to use a fiddle instead of the lute when bard
Right.
singing, which is aesthetic and not useful. Like that's a good source of 30. Like honestly, I
All right.
would I be mean if I say it's a noob toggle? Like it's really good for newer players that just don't have the way to get striding until level 20 something.
Sure. Well, you can get striding a lot earlier these days. But yeah, I don't know. This is one of those stances that you're probably going to stop using by level 5 or 6. I would think.
Yeah. Once you get the gear to stop using it, stop using it.
Yeah.
But on a side note, you notice that Scourge gives you fortitude, and this is giving you reflex. I'm pretty sure we're gonna get a will save iconic pretty around the corner eventually.
Yeah, maybe. The I think it just kind of depends on what it is, right? They've made it pretty clear that their iconics are, and even their races, right? Like they try to get things that tie into what that race is. So when they did Tiefling, right, like the racial bonus is charisma, not strength. Even though I think we already had 2 that were charisma, and
Yeah,
only 1 that was strength. So there was like, no, we need to have another strength one. Well, strength doesn't make any sense for Tiefling, so they didn't do it, right? Like they didn't
it
do it
could have
as strength.
it could have made sense as Dragonborn, but that would be weird to retroactively change that. And
Sure.
honestly, out of all the stats, like strength, you can get rage and all this stuff, like a psionic boost to strength, all this, and constitution has a bunch of boosts too. So I feel like getting us more int, charisma, and wisdom stuff in general would be better anyways, game mechanically, like
Mm-hmm.
giving us another point in strength. We already get +3 that we didn't have before, and strength was one of the first stats that broke 90 already in game, like back in the old meta.
I think I ran into someone that said that they had 140 strength.
Yeah, you don't need an air strength life. 140.
I'm not exactly sure I was getting there, but he was definitely utilizing rage and some spells and stuff like that. More power to you. That's a lot more than I've ever capped out at. But
Yeah.
I haven't been playing a lot of strength characters of late either. So, uh, yeah. So there you go. So those are the iconic lives. Kind of big picture. What what are the one we said? We like Shader Kai and PDK, right? Uh,
I
if someone was going to if someone was going to get all of them, what how would we direct them in going about that?
with all past lives, it really there's 2 factors: your end game goal and your play style, of course. But generally, PDK is a really good start because PRR, and if you're a caster, second choice Deep Gnome, hands down, because of MR and DCs. But if you're like a 2 weapon fighting, Shatter Kai for hands down, because that's gonna help you when you're getting your Scourge fast lives. But PDK is a must. Like it's just good backup. It's just good.
Mm-hmm.
It's like having a Gibbers or Harper Pen. It's just one of those things that's like, oh, don't worry, I'm independent and I can contribute to the party. It's definitely something that, and extra PR means that you can be more dependent when taking hits, and it's just a really
Sure.
good start.
I would say too, the biggest thing to think about here, especially if you're kind of just getting on the reincarnation bandwagon or you're not too far into this, there's currently 7 iconic lives.
Yep.
That means you're going to get, if you get all of these, all 3 from each, you're going to get 21 class pass lives with them. So take that into consideration. right?
That's like a majority of completionists already.
Well, you can definitely get completionist just by doing iconic lives, because you only need one out of for heroic completion. You just need one out of every
Yeah,
class, uh, and then you can get some extras on top of that. So, um, now having said that, you know, if you want to go for it and get them all, more power to you. I don't think you need to. Uh, there's, I mean, could everyone use all of these? Sure, probably.
not
At
blade
least the
fortune.
passive bonus. I mean, 15% fortification is more fortification. That's and take it from someone who's been getting critted by a certain new raid boss with 200% fortification. I mean, uh,
That 15 could save your life.
yeah, maybe. Although if you're going in there with 115 fortification and you're getting crit, you got characters getting crit at 215 ain't gonna do anything for you.
Yeah,
um, but you're probably most of the power from these is coming from the stance, right? And you're not going to use you can only use one stance at a time. Uh, and there's a lot of characters that repair plus 30 repair spell power isn't going to do much for you, or
no.
plus 30 light and alignment spell power ain't going to do much for you, right? I'm looking at you, monks. At least my monk, right? Like,
Yeah,
or the illusion DCs to spell like these are not things that are going to be very useful. And we talked about with scoundrel, right? Like, is it useful? Sure, if you don't have a striding item, which is not hard to get. I mean, you can go to I don't remember which collector it is, but you can go to one of the collectibles collectors and give him like 8 astral shards, and he'll give you a striding 30% striding topaz augment.
those are MO20 though.
Are they?
Yeah, sadly.
Uh, well, sure. Uh, but there's ways to get. There's a lot of ways to get striding. So, um, PDK is ubiquitously useful. Like that can save you. It can make your life more convenient. That's a great one to get first. Um,
Yeah, and Shatterkai is just so like
yeah,
unless I don't know if it stacks with like Wraith form incorporeal like or Dark Monk's incorporability or Ninja Spy. I mean,
that's a good question.
but in general, when you're about to die, when you're 50% dead, if you're a pessimist instead of 50% alive, um, that 20% will save you. I've
Sure.
constantly been impressed with that
Oh yeah.
stance.
Uh, it's I would say that the Shader Kai stance is the across the board most useful stance. Uh, I mean, Scourge is great if you're double striking. If you're 2 up and fighting, yay. If you're using illusion spells, Deep Known is great. But I mean, who couldn't use 25% incorporality to help save their life, right? Like it will save your life. It will be helpful.
Yeah, it is definitely one of the better stances.
Mm-hmm.
Though I am kind of sad how outdated. Like I would like to see the dodge boost increase to 3%. Like I don't think that's gonna break it. I feel like that's kind of
Ooh,
needed for certain.
I don't know. I don't think I agree with that. I mean, dodge is one of the most powerful defensive things you can get because every plus that you can get on it is as good as the one before it. You talk about like PRR, like every one you get is marginally less good than the one before it.
Yeah,
So,
I just feel like 1% dodge is just maybe even just two. Like I don't know.
well, but if I mean, most characters aren't going to get, as an average, I would say 20% dodge is about as good as you can get and are going to use. I know that there are characters that can get more than that. I have some, but usually those characters it's easier for them to get dodge. Uh, so I think in terms of like in the gear that you can get, it's probably marginalizing the 1%. Uh, but I think increasing that makes it too powerful too.
Yeah, I just it would the thing about why I want it to be increased is because the 3%, like you said, once you get to endgame, you can camp out your dodge pretty much without it. So I would like to like how would you say, like I want to have peanut butter on one bread and jelly on the other. I want to be able to sacrifice some gear that I have to have. You know what I mean? Like it would be nice to have not need so much dodge gear to max out my dodge
Sure.
because I put in the work. You know what I mean? So that way I can maybe improve or insightful armor piercing. Like you know what I mean? Like I would like, but I understand dodge is really OP. 3% once it's gonna be amazing for leveling up, but in end game, it's not what's gonna cap you out.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at having 9% dodge through heroics at level 1, that's a big.
That's
That's
huge.
a lot. That's a lot. But yeah. Well, there you go. There's iconic lives. We did it in one shot, as expected. Not too bad. So we're gonna close out the show. Nimvind, where can people find you? What you doing?
I'm on YouTube under Nimvind Dirtsinger. I'm also on Twitch now. Nimvind underscore.
You cut out there.
Yeah, sorry. I'm also on Twitch now on Nimvin underscore Dirtsinger. I'm also every other Thursday I do a pen and paper game with Tolab, Samus Gerbo, and Shoemaker and Steiner. Um, and of course, with Voodoo Spice's YouTube channel and live stream, I'm there pretty frequently and here sometimes.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for being here today, and thanks for we had scheduled this to be last weekend, and then forces outside our control made that infeasible.
Yes.
So we're glad you could get on this week, and we can make this happen. Thanks for everyone for listening to the show. Thanks to all the contributors of DDOCast, and to Standing Stone Games and Wizards of the Coast, and to Cyber Ears for hosting the podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOcast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. If you have a DDO-themed webpage or you Twitch DDO and you'd like to be featured on our website, you can email us at DDOcast@gmail.com. You can also hit us up at DDOcast.com for show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff. If you'd like to be a part of the show, have a comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, or you just want to say hi, you can leave a comment or you can email us at DDOcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media and follow us for the latest cast updates at DDOcast on Twitter is the best place. So all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs.